My daughter got married without telling me, and her stepfather walked her down the aisle, but now she needs my help because her mother died and her stepfather is gone. I'm a 51-year-old man. My daughter is 24. I haven't been in her life since she was about 13. Not by choice. Her mother, Carla, made sure of that. We divorced when Mad was 11, and from that moment on, it was like watching my own daughter turn against me in real time, and there was absolutely nothing I could do about it. When we separated, Carla used every legal trick she could. Full custody, supervised visits, false accusations about my temperament, lying to the court. You name it, she did it. I spent 5 years trying to have some kind of contact with my daughter. Birthdays, holidays, a few hours, a weekend. I would have settled for anything. Every time I got a little closer, Carla would file a new lawsuit or stir things up enough that Maddie would stop talking to me again. I kept showing up for a while. I remember one Christmas vividly. I had bought her a necklace. I drove to Carla's house just to try and give it to her in person. Before long, I had the police at my door because of another one of Carla's lies. That was my last attempt to get through that wall. After that, I stopped fighting a system that had already decided I didn't matter. Carla married a guy named Dennis when Maddie was about 14 or 15. He was a successful contractor. He built houses, drove a big truck, loved sports, basically the walking stereotype of the ideal Pinterest dad. From what I heard, he spoiled Maddie. Trips, expensive guitars, front row concert tickets. He filled the space I wasn't allowed to be in. Eventually, Maddie changed her last name. I didn't find out directly. I saw it in a post she was tagged in. Her first name plus Dennis's last name. I moved away. I got a quiet job. I focused on my own life. I stayed completely out of it for a decade. About 2 years ago, someone showed me photos from her wedding from her profile. I hadn't seen her in years, and there she was, walking down the aisle on Dennis's arm. The photo caption said, "Mad and her dad." Finally, the big day. Now fast forward to 2 weeks ago. I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It just said, "Can we talk?" I ignored it. A day later, I got another one. "It's Mad." She finally sent a longer message. She said her mother had died of cancer. Apparently, it had been a long battle. I had no idea she was sick. She also said Dennis had taken his own life just a week after Carla died. She said she didn't know who else to turn to, that she was overwhelmed with funeral plans, legal issues, estate matters, and needed help. She wasn't asking for money, at least not yet. But I felt like that's where it was heading. It wasn't an emotional reunion message. It wasn't, "I'm sorry for shutting you out," or "I want to reconnect." It was pure logistics. Can you help with the estate stuff? Do you know anything about probate? I think some things might fall under next of kin laws. After 10 years of hearing directly and indirectly that I didn't exist, that she didn't need me, that I wasn't a father, now, suddenly she wanted to act like we had some kind of bond. I didn't respond, and I didn't block her either. I just left it there. I thought about it every night for a week. I already mourned losing my daughter years ago. When I found out she changed her name, when the police were sent after me for trying to give her a necklace, when I saw her pretend I was dead. And now I'm supposed to just step back in and clean up the mess these two left behind. I still haven't said anything to her. I don't know if I will. Part of me just wants to delete the messages and move on like nothing happened. Another part thinks I should at least respond, tell her not to contact me ever again, and close the loop on my own terms. So yeah, that's where I'm at. The daughter who shut me out and replaced me is now asking for my help to clean up the mess from the life she chose. Update 1. After making the original post, I didn't respond to her messages. I realized that if I even gave a half response, it was going to turn into a lot more than I was willing to handle. She's not my family, so I don't have to help with any of this. I figured that would be the end of it, but 3 days later, my sister showed up at my house and she didn't come alone. She brought some store-bought muffins and a look that said, "We need to sit down and talk about something serious." I already knew where this was going. She started right away with the "she's still your daughter, and you have no idea what she's been through." "No, I don't," I said. "Because that person isn't my daughter, and I haven't heard from her in years. All by her mother's choice and her own." Apparently, after I didn't respond to Mad, she started digging through contacts and reached out to my sister. I don't even know how she got the number, but maybe it was in her mother's stuff or something. According to my sister, Mad was on the verge of a breakdown and completely lost after Dennis died. She said she had no one left. I asked her why she wasn't going to Dennis's family for help, which seemed more logical than trying to talk to me. But this is where the story gets more interesting and tells you what Mad is like. Apparently, Mad had burned a lot of bridges recently. She wasn't a good person. Carla's family was already distant, but even the ones who showed up when she got sick left angry. Apparently, Mad kept Carla's illness a secret until the end. Carla had been fighting cancer for over a year, and Maddie didn't tell anyone until the last few weeks. No one got to say goodbye. Even worse, while Carla was still alive, Maddie sold her grandmother's house, Carla's mother's house, behind everyone's back. The house had been in the family for 3 generations. It was supposedly a house put in Mad's name with the promise that she wouldn't sell it and would keep it as a family legacy. But Maddie put it up for sale and did it while Carla was in hospice care. I don't know why she did it, but the family freaked out and cut her off completely. Then there's Dennis's family. This part gets even worse. Dennis had 2 adult children from a previous marriage, and they had been fighting with Maddie for months. They didn't like how Carla and Maddie had manipulated Dennis. They said they isolated him towards the end, and that he hadn't seen his grandchildren in over a year. There was already built-up tension before Carla died, and Dennis's death made everything explode. Now Dennis's oldest son is threatening to sue Mad, saying she manipulated Dennis into making financial decisions while he was emotionally vulnerable. The guy claims Dennis was trying to update his will to cut Mad out completely, but didn't get the papers filed before he died. And now Maddie wants to keep everything, so now she's alone. The rest of the family isn't talking to her, and she's coming to the one person she publicly erased from her life. Me. I asked my sister directly, "If you know all this, why on earth should I get involved after everything?" Her answer, "Because you're her real father, and I think you're the only one who can help her." I had to laugh at that. "Since when?" I asked. "Not when I was going to court every month to get visits. Not when I was getting served court papers just for trying to drop off gifts. Not when I saw a photo of Dennis walking her down the aisle with a caption saying he was her dad." My sister started with things like, "Maybe this is your chance to fix things," and "She was just a child." She didn't know what she was doing back then. But she wasn't a child forever. She stopped being one a long time ago. Maddie is an adult. She made adult choices. She pushed people away and hid important things from family. Now that her safety net is gone, she's desperate. And let's be honest, she didn't reach out to me because she missed me. She reached out because she's overwhelmed and doesn't want to face this alone. When my sister saw I wasn't budging an inch, she got frustrated. She said Mad was going to fall apart, and that I would regret it if something happened to her. But I can't regret anything because I already consider her not my daughter in my head. After my sister left, I got another message, this time a voicemail from Maddie. The tone wasn't the same anymore. She sounded angry. She said something like, "Fine, stay out of it like you always do. I just want you to know I'm going to tell everyone you let me drown." So we're at that stage now. The blame shifting. Painting me as the absent father again, like I haven't lived through that script already. I haven't responded, and I don't plan to. For now, I blocked her number. If she wants anything from me, she can do it through a lawyer, like her mother used to. I already lost a decade with this girl, and I'm not giving her another one just because her life plan fell apart. Update 2. I thought that after that voicemail and blocking her, things would quiet down. I assumed she'd move on and find someone else who still felt sorry for her. What I didn't expect was getting pulled into all this through the legal back door. I got a letter in the mail about a week and a half after I talked to my sister. At first, I thought it was junk mail, one of those fake legal notices trying to scare you into calling a scam number. But it wasn't. As I read it, I could tell it was real. It was a formal court summons. They were calling me to testify. Turns out Dennis's older kids followed through. They're suing over his estate, mainly for assets, access to accounts, and a change in beneficiary on one of his life insurance policies, which strangely happened just 3 weeks before he died. Their lawyer filed a lawsuit claiming emotional coercion and undue influence, and right there in the middle of the papers was my name. I called my lawyer right away. We went through everything together. That's when we found out Mad had filed a sworn statement saying we had reconnected in the months before Dennis died, and that I had helped her emotionally cope with the loss of 2 parental figures. The problem, besides it being a lie, was that she was dragging me into this legal mess when I had nothing to do with it. Dennis's kids were suing and thought I might be involved in all the strange things Mad did. I hadn't talked to her in a decade until she messaged me after Carla died. I had no choice but to respond. My lawyer filed a motion to correct the record and a formal declaration denying any involvement. We attached screenshots of the messages she sent me, records of blocked calls, and confirmation that I never signed anything or was present for any conversations about Dennis, his estate, or any financial matters. Still, that didn't change the fact that my name was in the case. Now, as part of Mad's defense, the court scheduled a civil deposition and subpoenaed me to appear. I wasn't a defendant, but now I was a material witness, meaning I had to get involved in all this whether I liked it or not. I attended the deposition. Luckily, it was virtual, but it was still uncomfortable. Mad was there, but Dennis's 2 adult sons and their lawyer asked direct questions about how long I'd been back in Mad's life, what kind of role I'd played, if I ever spoke to her about Dennis or his mental state, and if she ever expressed being overwhelmed or needing help. All my answers were the same. I wasn't involved. I didn't offer help. I wasn't present. That's when the real story started coming out. Dennis's son said they had been shut out of his life for over a year. Maddie and Carla had apparently taken total control of his communications, phone, email, messages, even his access to his grandchildren. The son said Dennis started acting strange towards the end. He became withdrawn, paranoid about being manipulated, and had even talked to a lawyer about making changes to his will. That's when Carla got worse, according to messages they recovered. She accused him of being senile. She told him she would leave him if he tried to sabotage Maddie's future, and even threatened to reveal personal details from his past if he went ahead with the change. Those documents were never finalized. Dennis died before they could be filed. Now Maddie is trying to keep everything, based on a version of events no one else supports. I think she felt alone because no one is on her side and was hoping I would help her get out of legal trouble. Now, I don't understand why she said I had a relationship with her beforehand. Maybe she used it to intimidate her stepbrothers or, I don't know. But now I'm involved in this mess. I've had to take time off work, file paperwork, and spend money just to clear up a lie I didn't even ask to be a part of. I don't feel sorry for her. I feel used. She buried me in her past and is now trying to use my name while pocketing money that doesn't even belong to her. I've said what I needed to say under oath. And that's it. Update 3. About 2.5 months have passed since the legal deposition. Nothing since then. I figured that would be the end of it, at least for me. I did what I had to do. I cleared my name legally, I stayed out of it, I moved on. I didn't expect her to show up again, and definitely not like this. I work in logistics at a company. It's a good job for me based on my skills, and I have a good position after years of working there. I keep my personal life private, mainly because there's not much to tell. People know I have a daughter I don't have contact with, but no one pries beyond that. A week ago, I was in a morning meeting when I was called over the loudspeaker to come down to reception. That's not normal. I thought it was HR or something with my car in the parking lot. When I came out front, I froze. Sitting in the lobby, holding a baby. It was Mad. Before I could say a single word, the receptionist smiled and said, "She said she was your daughter and wanted to surprise you." She thought it was adorable, but that's because she didn't know the whole story. Maddie smiled and said she had brought my granddaughter for me to meet. I asked her what she was really doing there. She started talking like things were fine between us. She said the baby was her daughter, that she had been trying to get her life together lately, and that maybe it was time her daughter had a real grandpa in her life. I told her that wasn't the place for all that, and that I had to get back to work. She didn't flinch. She kept trying to talk. I told her again, straight up, that I wasn't going to play family now, and that she shouldn't ever show up at my work again. I turned around and went back upstairs. By lunchtime, half the building already knew. People started coming by asking if that was my daughter, what the story was, why she had a baby, if I was a grandpa now. One guy even made a joke about how sweet it was she brought the baby. I shut him down right away. I told them it was personal and to please drop it. Then it got worse. That same day, around 3 p.m., the receptionist handed me something. She said my daughter had left it for me. It was a small binder, basically a photo album. Inside were old pictures of Mad and me, mostly from when she was a little kid. Me holding her at the park, her first recital, some Christmas mornings. She had printed them out, put them in plastic sleeves, and left a note in the front that said, "In case you forgot." I didn't take it home. I left it on my desk until the end of the day, then locked it away in a drawer. I haven't contacted her, I haven't touched the album, haven't even looked past the first few pages. I have no interest in nostalgia. That version of her, the little girl in those pictures, doesn't exist anymore. And now that all the lies and manipulation have left her alone, she's still doing the same thing, but to me. Well, she's not going to get it. I'm not letting her. With the help of HR, I blocked access to my workplace. Security knows she can't see me and can't be there. My lawyers have informed her with a letter that any future contact, direct or indirect, will be treated as harassment. I told my sister not to contact me again if it's about Maddie. I hope that's enough. Update 4. It's been a little over a year since I last saw Maddie. That was when she showed up at my work with her baby and started telling people I was her father again, like nothing had happened. After that, I made it clear I didn't want any more contact. I changed my security information at work, filed the necessary paperwork, and moved on. I haven't heard anything from her directly since then, but 2 weeks ago, something else showed up in my mailbox. It was a thick envelope sent by a law firm. Inside were scanned documents, a copy of a written statement, and a USB drive. Attached was a cover letter from a private investigator hired by Dennis's oldest son, the same one who's been trying to unravel the mess Carla left behind after she died and the lies she and Dennis told. Turns out they found a storage unit Carla had rented in her name in another city. They found old computers, financial papers, loose photos, and a box of journals. Inside that box were handwritten pages and audio recordings. I didn't listen to the audio, but the written statements were more than enough. Carla had recorded herself venting about everything: the divorce, the custody, battle, even her second marriage. Some pages were about how to manipulate the situation with Mad during the trial. In one, she wrote directly that she was coaching Maddie on certain things about me, so it would help her get the restraining order. She wrote about how she lied in court about things I never did, just to gain full control and be able to move on with Dennis without interruptions. She also admitted that Dennis didn't agree at first, but that she slowly manipulated him, turning him against his own family and cutting ties with his children so Maddie could get everything. That fits with what Dennis's son said during the lawsuit, that Dennis was planning to change his will, but never got the chance. Apparently, Carla used guilt, financial control, and threats to keep Dennis in line and make sure Maddie stayed in the will. And from the tone of the entries, Carla never seemed to regret it. The investigator wanted to know if I would be willing to testify or provide an affidavit now for a new trial against Maddie, stating that these materials would be presented in an appeals process related to Dennis's estate. I told him no. I told him I had nothing further to add. Which is true. There's nothing I can contribute. He asked if he could use my previous deposition from the first lawsuit. I told him yes. I thought that was the end of it. Then 5 days ago, I got an email from Maddie. It was the first time she had contacted me directly in over a year. The message sounded like a narcissist with a lot of time on their hands. She said she had been shown copies of Carla's journals and recordings. She said she didn't know what to believe anymore, if she really remembered things the way they happened, or if her memories had been manipulated. She said she didn't understand what was real and what wasn't, or who her mother really was, or who I was. She asked if I could meet with her to help her understand the truth. I didn't respond, and I'm not going to, because here's what I know. I spent years trying to be a part of her life. I went the legal route. I was patient. I wrote letters, emails. I went to events I wasn't invited to just to show support from afar. Every attempt was blocked, erased, or used against me. She called me a stranger in court. She told others I was emotionally unstable. When she got married, she let another man walk her down the aisle and said he was the only father she'd ever had. She put that as the caption on a photo from her wedding. I wasn't even mentioned. She showed up at my office with a baby like that was going to soften me. She played the grandpa card because she thought it would gain sympathy points. Now that the truth about Carla is out, she wants me to fill in the blanks. But that's not my job anymore. I didn't raise the version of Maddie that exists today. I wasn't allowed to. Carla made sure of that. She has Carla's journals. If she wants to know who her mother really was, she can read those. If she wants to understand what happened with Dennis's family, they're more than willing to talk. If she wants to know who I am, she has a dozen photo albums from when she was a kid that can remind her. And if that's not enough, she'll have to make peace with what she doesn't know. I hope Dennis's sons get their inheritance back. They've been at this for a while, and even though I don't know them, I know they deserve that money more than my daughter does. My daughter isn't just facing a lawsuit over the inheritance dispute. She's also facing one for manipulation to keep it. That second one is a bit more serious because I understand she could get prison time if she's found guilty. I don't know what will happen to her son, because in the little interaction we had, she hasn't mentioned a father. Update 5. Many commenters have asked me about the verdicts of the different lawsuits involving my daughter, so I've decided to make a final post to fill in those gaps. I'll also include some details about her son. Dennis's will was overturned, and his biological children's rights ultimately prevailed. Carla, in reality, didn't have anything to leave anyone. She was completely dependent on Dennis. And since she died after him, she didn't inherit anything she could pass on to her daughter. I don't know what Dennis's children are like, and maybe they didn't deserve his money either, but at least I'm clear that my daughter didn't deserve it at all. What she did deserve were charges for manipulating Dennis during his final stages of life so he would leave her most of his estate. That same manipulation was partly what pushed him to suicide. Since her mother died, Maddie wanted Dennis to take care of her and her baby, She expected him to give her some kind of allowance, money without having to do anything in return. She even threatened him with telling everyone he was the baby's father. I don't know if anyone knows the identity of the real father, but I know it wasn't Dennis. Even so, she tried to use that lie as a threat to damage his reputation. That, added to his depression over losing Carla, led Dennis to take his own life. Because of that, his sons, along with a prosecutor, worked to make sure Maddie faced legal consequences, and she is currently serving a 5-year prison sentence for the various charges brought against her. As a result, Child Protective Services stepped in and took custody of her son, who was handed over to Carla's family to raise. That's all I have to tell you because I don't even know which prison Maddie was transferred to after the trial.